Welcome to episode 51 of Shane Talks. Jason and I are back from our summer vacation. We took the last couple weeks off to spend a little extra time with the family before kids went off to school, and we had some other personal stuff going on in our lives. So we are back, and we are ready because this week on Shane Talks, we are going to talk about...
This week, we're talking about what I want to talk about. We're going to do musicals. When I was in high school, I got into theater and I met some amazing people in my life. And all three of these people have gone on to do a whole lot of other things besides theater, but even furthered their theater exposure, if you will, for the last 20 something years, at least. So today I am joined by Kathleen. I am also joined by my fellow class of 1998 alumni, John Owens. And then I am also joined by another LC alum and Chris Meek. So thank you guys for being here. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. I kicked Shane off this week because nobody wants to hear him talk for a 50th episode. So. And you guys all know you've been there. So if you guys can do a real quick introduction of yourselves and what theater expertise or exposure you've had, that would be something that would be awesome. So Kathleen, can you lead us in?
Oh, sure. Well, I'm Kathleen Clarke-Horrigan, and I am the drama teacher at Lawrence Central High School. This is year 26. I also direct and act at Footlight Musicals in downtown Indianapolis.
All right. John?
Yes, I am John Owens. I served as a creative director for about 16 years in different ways, working with churches and other youth productions. I'm currently pastor of City of Lights Church in Indianapolis and been involved in musical theater since I was 8 years old.
Thank you. Chris?
So in my current life, I am an insurance agent. Which has nothing to do with theater,
baby.
But I still do
checks.
a lot of theater and improv in my spare time. So I started doing theater in about 1996, thanks to Kathleen, and fell in love with it. Most of my theatrical experience has been at Footlight Musicals or at once was Theater on the Square or the District Theater now in Indianapolis. I did study theater at Ball State University for a while. And then, like I said, I do improv mostly now when I can, either in person or via Twitch on occasion in the post-COVID world. So it's a good time.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. So we're going to mainly focus on musicals with this episode because that's more near dear to my heart than plays, but plays have their place also on stage, obviously. But I made a quote in our high school newspaper, I think it was my senior year, that musicals bring the best of acting and the best of singing and dancing all on one stage, which is something that I find more enjoyable than just watching a straight play. But to each their own. Can you guys remember the first musical that you ever saw? Anyone?
Let me start. When I was in middle school, my mother took me to see Brigadoon, and I was totally enchanted with, it was a high school doing it. I'm from Logansport, Indiana, and we had this wonderful drama teacher, and we did 2 musicals every year. The seniors got to do a musical at the end of their senior year, but then they always did a fall musical. But I got to see Brigadoon, and it was astounding to me that people could sing and dance and act on stage. And it just totally committed me to loving musicals.
Awesome. Guys?
So I remember in 1992, my mom took me to see Miss Saigon at the Murat Theater in Indianapolis. It was the first stage show that I saw in person. So, I mean, content-wise, probably not the best for someone who was, I think, in 6th grade at the time. But I remember sitting there just enamored with the music, the acting, the sets, just the visual experience. It just immersed me, and so I think that started my love. And I remember I used to wake up in the morning to the soundtrack. So if you know the Miss Saigon soundtrack, the very beginning of it is helicopters flying in. So that was like my alarm in the morning for many, many years after that.
Awesome.
The first musical I ever saw was actually on TV. It was when I was really young. I was probably about 7 or 8, and it was during the time where they would play Sound of Music. It was the Sound of Music. They would play it right around Thanksgiving, like every year. It was like an annual thing that they would do on television. And I remember just eating leftovers and sitting on my parents' bed, and just being absolutely just blown away by just the opening scene. And I was just locked in to that musical it seemed like it was like forever, because I remember like it was the latest I'd ever stayed up before. All my siblings were asleep. I think my parents were asleep, and I was still like sitting on the edge of their bed, watching every moment of it.
So yeah, the first one that I ever saw, I remember watching TV and seeing it was either The Sound of Music or Grease, which are way total different. What are you going to let your child watch? But so it was either one or the other. I can't remember which. My parents were, what's really interesting to me is that I never knew my parents were like really into like musicals, and that my dad did, like, he played saxophone in high school and was in the band and like in the pit for a bunch of their musicals and stuff. And I never found that out until I was junior, senior in high school. So, but the very first musical I ever saw was, oh man, I can't remember on stage if it was Chicago when it came here as a tour. And like, I want to say that was junior year. No. It was Phantom of the Opera when we went and saw it with Central Sound in Atlanta. So that was 97, I think. So yeah, that was my first time ever seeing a show on stage. And yeah, it was, and Phantom, for anybody who hasn't seen it, is the technical aspect of Phantom is just outstanding and beautiful, especially when done correctly. And I just remember being completely enthralled by it and thinking this was awesome. So, but you know, that's kind of weird because I had been on stage doing Guys and Dolls and Music Man before we even got to the point where I saw Phantom of the Opera. So I was definitely on stage doing those before I even saw a musical live. So a little strange. So, Kathleen, what is your favorite stage musical of all time?
This is really hard. This is a hard one. I have to say it is Brooklyn, which some of you may not be familiar with. It is about 5 homeless people that put on a musical to gain money so they can survive another day. And so they tell the story of this young Vietnam veteran that, a Vietnam soldier that goes over to Paris, meets a young lady, falls in love with her, has to go off to war. They never see each other again, but she has a child and she names her Brooklyn. The mother then commits suicide. And then the child, when she grows up, the only way that she knows how to find her father is a song that he wrote. And so she's determined to go to Brooklyn, where he's from, and find her father. And she does. But it's under sad circumstances. And then at the end, you find out it's based on one of the characters that was telling the story, even though it was supposed to be a fairy tale. And it's very emotional.
It's a feel-good story.
Pardon?
It's a feel-good story.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And the interesting thing about it is that the man that there are two, a man and a woman wrote it. The woman I think she went to school with the guy that helped write it. And one day she was walking down the streets of New York and she saw him playing the saxophone, and he actually was a homeless person. And she took him into her home, and then they wrote this musical together, sort of based loosely, I'm guessing, on his life. So it's an amazing musical. I was fortunate enough to direct it at Footlight, but when I saw it, I got to meet the guy, and I said, I'm bringing it to Indianapolis someday. So that became my favorite musical.
Awesome. Chris, what's your favorite stage musical?
I'm wearing the shirt, and it's it's something that evolves over time. And as you have experiences in your life, I feel like it changes. But I think Avenue Q, even before I had the opportunity to do it at Footlight, was directed by Kathleen and Ed Trout. I had so many fond memories of just the show in general. Um, the music is outstanding. I absolutely love the score and the story. I think it's interesting to see puppets and you being able as an audience member to relate to things that are going on in the lives of puppets, and just the comedy. Robert Lopez and Kristen Anderson Lopez in their lyrics, and there's heart in the show, and there's comedy. And I think for people who are leaving school as high schooler or as someone in college or in your early to late 30s, there are a lot of things that you can relate to through the show as you think about uncertainties in life and how life isn't always perfect, and it's never going to be, but we are all kind of in it together, and the fact that you add the puppet aspect to it makes it so much fun, and yeah, I think it's a wonderful show.
John, what do you think is your favorite stage musical?
Man, I'm gonna sound like a casual, but I just don't care. Like I would say Hamilton, my man. I've really, there's been a lot of shows that I've loved watching and loved being in, but when I think of, I intentionally avoided Hamilton for like really way too long. And basically just because there was such a hype train around it. And then it got to the point where I found out we were going to get tickets to go see it in Chicago. And so even more so, I was like, I don't want to listen to any of the music. I just want to hear it for myself for the first time. And we had nosebleed seats in Chicago. And there was a pole like right by my seat. So I watched almost the whole musical leaning like this. But when I tell you, from the moment that it started, I just sat like this with my jaw on the ground, and just amazed at the wordplay and the way that they took something that I really love, which is hip hop music and poetry, and really intertwined it with this amazing story, and showing it with a cast that I think, because of the casting and the ethnicity and the diversity on stage portraying, a story that was typically just expressed through white people, it actually allowed you to get a sense of depth that you kind of miss because you think, oh, I know that. I've seen that in school and I've heard that. I just absolutely loved it, loved every minute of it. And I got to see it with my wife there. We saw it in Louisville, and we had my son, for his 13-year trip, I was going to take him to go see it, and it got canceled because of COVID. So we're looking to make that up. But I would say that's been my favorite stage musical.
I have to stick with an old classic. It's right behind me. Kathleen told me about Wicked right after it came out, and the hype wasn't enough for me. Like, I went in and I watched it, and I actually went to Broadway to see it for the first time, and like it was way better than I ever thought. And it's kind of strange to me because favorite musical is a little bit different, right? So like, I think the weird thing is like, this is my favorite musical of all time on stage. But another kind of interesting thing was I went and saw Hairspray when it was here on a tour, and I thought Hairspray was just it was just so much fun, and it live, like the entire crowd had this great energy of just pleasant and happiness, and even the down parts of that show like are still like fun and vibrant, and so like Hairspray is like a close second, but like Wicked is definitely high on my list. So Chris, what's your favorite song from a musical?
My favorite song from a musical is A Little Fall of Rain from Les Mis. For those of you who aren't familiar, I guess at this point there's probably no spoilers for Les Mis. But Eponine gets shot, and this is her dying song, her confessing her love to Marius, who is not in love with Eponine. He sees her as a friend. He loves her as a friend, but he is madly in love with Cosette. And he expresses her love to her as well through the song. And the final word and note of that song is sung by Marius alone, because Eponine has died in his arms as he's singing it. And it's just such raw emotion, and it gets me every single time. I don't, it's not a big show-stopping number. It's a ballad, but it's just one thing that I think every single time I hear it, I'm like, yeah, that's the one for me.
I cry a lot when I hear that one. So no shame in that. At least tear up. I won't say cry. I'll say up to it.
Yeah.
Kathleen, what do you think is your favorite song of all time?
Again, that was a rough one to think about. I'm going to say Seasons of Love. Thinking about, what a person goes through an entire year. It just, and the way it was presented in Rent, it just the powerfulness of what was written, and that whole musical. But I think Seasons of Love is just really, it gets to me every time that I hear it. So yeah, I'm going to go with that one.
Awesome.
It was a tough choice though.
It was a tough choice. You guys are making me rethink much. The both of those are so good. My son was recently in Les Mis. He played Marius, and that scene about took my heart out. I would say, gosh, there's so many great songs, but one that I just absolutely love is "River in the Rain" from Big River. I actually heard the song before I'd seen the musical. My dad, there was a special event that was going on someplace, and they asked my dad and another gentleman who sang in the city at the time to do that and to perform that. And it was so, just the harmonies, the tone of the whole song, and then the way it kind of goes into that bridge was just so powerful. It just gripped me. And then when I went to Anderson University, I got a chance to play Jim in Big River while I was at Anderson, and that song just made me want to just tear up every time. So I love that song.
Awesome. Mine, it's hit me hard lately. Not sure why, but for the moment, it's "You Matter to Me" from Waitress. It's I'm thinking about getting emotional right now just talking about the song. Like, it's just very deep, beautiful ballad. And if you haven't heard it, definitely recommend listening to Waitress. I got to see that while it was on tour here, and fantastic show. And but yeah, that song especially gets me for some reason. So yeah. All right. So whoever wants to chime in first, the next question on our list is going to be, what musical made you think that it was art?
Okay, I'll start. The Light in the Piazza.
Ooh.
I don't know if you know that musical either, but Adam Gettle, who is the grandson of Richard Rodgers, wrote the music to it, and it is a beautiful story based on a movie that they made into a musical. A woman and her daughter go to Italy on a trip, and are any of you familiar with it?
I am not.
I've not seen it.
Spoiler: the young lady has a disability. It doesn't really show, but she acts very childish, even though she's in her 20s. And an Italian young man falls in love with her and wants to marry her, but the mother is afraid that he will find out what is wrong with her. And come to find out that when she was 12, she was hit in the head by a horse, and it basically made her remain a 12-year-old mentally. And so she's very naive, and what they go through But the music is astounding. The beauty of it, it takes place, they like in art museums, and they have statues, and the glory of the music. The woman that played the mother won the Tony Award for Best Actress the year that it came out. And it is a gut-wrenching story to see this young woman want to fall in love, but her mother, basically the father doesn't want it to happen at all. He's like back in the United States when they're on this trip, and the mother and the father are going through, they probably should be divorced, actually. But the mother goes against the wishes and lets the daughter get married anyway. And it's just a very beautiful, beautiful story, beautifully done. Music is amazing. And it's not very well known, but it's an amazing musical. So I'll throw that one out there.
All right, I'm going to go second. Chicago. I knew the music, but it was one of those, I never knew what was going to be done on stage. And I went to go see that on stage, and that half box for the pit to be on stage, and then everything's abstract around them and on the sides. And I was totally just like, I mean, being a fan of musicals and stuff and seeing things was one thing, but like to go from something that's so literal, where like Phantom of the Opera, you go to the sewers and you're seeing all this, and then you go in the rafters and you're seeing that, like for that musical to be so abstract was just so cool to me. And I was just sitting there like, this is so simplistic. Like the amount of money that somebody spent on this was probably like very little compared to they probably spent more on the cast than they did on the actual stage direction, but it works beautifully in that show. And the movie is just so grand and big, and it works for the film. But on stage, it was perfect, and I just thought it was so cool to see it done that way. Chris, John?
I'll jump in here. First of all, I just got to say, being on a podcast with Kathleen right now just feels unfair. I mean, she is seriously like the godmother,
right?
You know what I'm saying? I'm like, she literally has more musical knowledge in her pinky finger than any of us, and she is like, anyway. So I just gotta say, you are amazing, Kathleen. So I just had to brag on you for a second. For anybody that's listening to this, they need to know she is not a novice. Anyway, so so when I first looked at the question, it actually just kind of hit me funny, because to me, I've always kind of viewed anything like this as an artistic expression, or as a work of art. And you think of all the intricacy, but I would say the musical, particularly experience that I had, that I was just so blown away in that specific way, was The Lion King on Broadway. I remember being so like curious when I heard they were going to Broadway. How are they going to take this cartoon and make it realistic and make you forget that they're playing these characters? And when I went, I felt like I was like caught up in this art installation, and to see the puppetry and all of the movement happening in the audience, not just on the stage. It was just, it didn't, at least to me, I was worried going in that it was just going to be really cheesy and feel like, I never got into Cats. Like that was always just like, I was worried that it was going to have some, this anthropomorphic kind of effect. And I was actually just so enamored just by how beautiful it was and how basic the stage was. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot to it, but the puppetry and the characters and the way they brought everything to life was just really cool to me.
Yeah, so for me, I would say Into the Woods was probably the show for me, because it was one of those, like you, Jason, mentioned, you knew the music, but like seeing it on stage is a completely different experience from listening to the soundtrack. So I feel like that for me was like I really loved the music and the feel, but then once you see it all put together and you get the missing pieces that are in there, and then you have a fake cow on stage and you have a giant walking across the stage and just
And
all of the aspects.
Kathleen would get a real cow, though. Kathleen
Yeah,
would get a real
absolutely,
cow.
absolutely.
Actually, when
sorry
I
to
did it,
interrupt.
I had a horse.
Was it a horse?
I had
Okay.
a horse. Yeah,
There you
I
go.
wanted the cow, but it dies, so I didn't want that to happen.
Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely. But no, I that's the one, like when I think about the musical that made me say, like, look at all the work that really goes into putting together a show. That's the one for me that was like, there's so much more than just the soundtrack to the show. There's the acting, there's the sets, there's the props, the costumes, everything that really make it whole.
Hey, Chris, I can't remember if you and Jason, were you guys there at LC when it was during one of our, it was like some kind of special testing period or whatever, where we watched Into the Woods in class during like a central sound period. Do you remember that? It was, I think it might have been before Chris was there, but I just remembered it was great. I loved it, but there was a very high schoolish moment. You knew you were in high school watching this when the character that played the wolf was very anatomically correct in his reproductive anatomy. And it was basically a naked dude with a wolf head and a suit coat, just free, you know, at LC with a bunch of teenagers from Lawrence Central. It was quite a moment. That I don't think Miss Adrianson or Mr. Bridgewater had thought about before we watched it.
Yeah, I don't remember that, but I will. Everybody seems to have some.
Come on, black comedy.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry.
right?
Do you like the shirt? Do you like it? Do you like it?
Yes.
So on a side note, so the
designed
shirt
those
that I'm
eyes.
wearing is black comedy. It was our thespian play our senior year. Yeah, right. Yeah, I think it was our senior year. So John was the lead. I can't remember. Were you the lead or like second?
I think I was second.
Okay. And then I played a small role, but I had a lot of fun with it, and apparently traumatized my niece.
I drew those eyes in study hall.
So yeah, yep, this is the shirt for LC theater department lovers. So
Wow.
it's still kind of fits. So I'm all right. So,
hey, I got mine in the closet, fam.
I wanted you to put on your Music Man shirt again there, John.
I should have grabbed it.
So what musical do you think took you by surprise? Like you were like, yeah, like, okay, I'll watch it, but I've got no high hopes. And John, I don't know if Hamilton can fall into that category for you or not, but if it does, let's pick something else. But yeah, what were you not expecting to really enjoy, or you thought you might enjoy it, but it was way better than you thought it was going to be?
So it is actually somewhat in a similar vein because it was something that Lin-Manuel Miranda did, but I saw this clip. And I could not figure out what musical it was. I saw a clip on TikTok, and Anthony Ramos was singing, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, why don't I know about this?" And I started in the comments, "Where did this come from? Where did this come from?" And came upon this like short musical called 21 Jump Street. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but basically there was this challenge that was put forth for essentially Lin-Manuel Miranda to write a musical within 24 hours. And he writes this musical. It basically, Anthony Ramos is the main character in it. And it's this 21 Jump Street type thing where the undercover cop is actually a girl. And she meets this kid who's played by Anthony Ramos, who's actually a straight-laced, doesn't do drugs, isn't into crime kid. But he falls in love with her, and she says she wants drugs. And so he tries to figure out a way to, because he likes her, to be her hookup and then he ends up going to jail and losing his scholarship. And it's just really heartbreaking. But the music, I when I heard it, the whole thing is like 15 minutes long. And I've listened through it so many times, and the melodies and the music are so fun. And it really, there's this theme, and it goes from being a high energy, happy theme to a heart wrenching theme that you hear motif, where he's saying, tell me what I gotta do to be with you. And in the end, it's like, what the heck did you do? And you just see his heart just being ripped out of his chest, by what happened. So that one just totally caught me off guard. I didn't even know it existed. I wish they would actually do more with it, because you can see it on YouTube, and they have like the EP available, I think, on Apple Music. But that one came out of nowhere, and I love it.
Okay. All right. Chris.
So for me, it's the musical Violet. It's not very well known. I think, Kathleen, have you done Violet before?
Yeah.
Have you directed Violet?
No, I love it though. Okay. No.
Yeah.
Good choice.
So it's based on a story. I think it's called The Ugliest Pilgrim, where it's a story of a young girl named Violet who is disfigured, and she sees a preacher who she thinks can heal her in Oklahoma. I think she goes from North Carolina to Oklahoma, and it's about the people and her journey along the way. And it's a show full of interesting characters that Violet meets, and then obviously she gets to this television evangelist at the end, and there's it's a very heartfelt story with some good comedy and really good surprising music that you don't hear a lot. But I would definitely recommend, if you haven't heard the soundtrack for Violet, to take a listen to it.
Awesome. Kathleen.
Okay, well, actually The Wedding Singer. So I know, right? So I thought, so I saw Saturday Night Live on stage, and I thought this is the worst thing. I mean, the expectations were negative, and it turned out to be that way. So when I went to see The Wedding Singer, I thought there's no way, because it's going to be boring. But I was so delighted by the storyline, and it was just so much fun, and the characters and the songs. I was just so blown away, because that's not like my favorite movie at all. But they did such a good job with bringing it to life and making it such a lovely musical. I was totally surprised and blown away. So yeah, that's my choice.
Mine was definitely Come From Away. I had tried to listen to a couple of times, and I don't know why. I was kind of getting it, but not fully. Same thing with Hamilton. The first couple of times I listened to Hamilton, I was like, I don't get the hype. And then I would make it 2 or 3 songs in, and then I went and saw it on stage, and it totally changed my perspective on how I listened to it. With Come From Away, there's just so many characters, especially kind of like Les Mis, where it's like so many people are constantly singing over one another, or like in Come From Away, they have multiple parts. Some of them are playing 3 or 4 parts each. So for the same voice to do different parts, you're just sitting there like, while listening to it, it's not very clear. But Come From Away was something my wife had no clue. I keep doing that to her. I took her to Waitress. She had no clue what it was. I took her to Come From Away. She had no idea what it was. She knew that it had something to do with 9/11, but that was it. And if anybody's never seen the show, it basically is just about it's a town in Canada that literally housed twice 100% of the population. Like, they doubled their population overnight because of 9/11. Or was it triple? It was double or triple, whatever. But it's all these people just taking care of each other, essentially. And it's so beautiful. And it's based on all these true writings and interviews. And if you're ever a fan of musicals, it's coming out on Apple TV in September. I think it's like September 16th or something like that. And if you've never seen the show, or you are any interested interest in it at all, you should watch it because it's fantastic. It looks like it's going to be shot kind of the same way they did the Hamilton for Disney Plus. So it looks to me like they probably filmed a couple of times without an audience and then maybe once or twice with an audience so that they could intercut it all. But it looks fantastic. I can't wait to watch it again. So I definitely think Come From Away was definitely my favorite. That surprised me. So next up is, who's your favorite musical character from what musical? Anyone?
So this is one I think for me it changes so much. And right now it's Washington from Hamilton. And I don't know if it's as much the character or Christopher Jackson's delivery of that character, but the emotion that he goes through in him. And I think, for me, it's being a father is part of it. And he becomes a father figure to Hamilton through that, as much as Hamilton doesn't want him to, through pieces of that. And I just think of his letter of resignation, like that moment in that musical is such a pivotal moment, and it's so emotional, and just the delivery is perfect. I think we took the question out, but it's right now, I think Christopher Jackson's probably my favorite actor in musicals right now because of what he's doing, and he's gone to do voiceovers. He's Moana's father in Moana, and just like he's doing so much right now that's amazing. And I just wanted to throw that out there for people to look him up. But
we're actually keeping that question in.
Oh, are we? Okay.
But it's okay. It's all right. Well, it's all right. John,
that's right now for sure.
John told me one of his all-time hopes is that at some point in time he could play Washington and have his son play Hamilton, so that on stage. And I have to say, just being a fan of John and Hamilton, I would love to see that. So if we ever have that opportunity, I will. If I can find a way to produce that for you, I will make that happen for you. So.
Hey, I wouldn't fight it. That would seriously. That's one of my bucket. Once I saw that scene, I thought, actually thought, man, if I ever got to do that with my son, that would be a dream come true. I would say, I really like, and it's kind of an old kind of classic, and it's a quirky character, but I really love Harold Hill, from The Music Man. It's so funny how different, for me, for whatever reason, it's kind of like, I don't know. It's like, I don't know if I picked The Music Man or Music Man picked me, but for whatever reason, I did the show like 4 different times before I was 20. And I've played, 4 different roles in it, from being a little kid to being a townsperson to being the first tenor in the quartet to being Harold Hill. And I memorized almost every word. It's actually one of my stupid human tricks with my kids when I'm making them breakfast and shock them that I know all these, words to trouble. But the character is such a complex character in terms of, you see this guy. I would say the only thing that would be second to it, which, is this, would be in How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, is you see this guy that's essentially, a cheat and a deceiver, and he's trying to manipulate things for his gain and trying to make a way. And essentially he gets caught, he gets caught not just by the police, but he gets caught in his heart and his emotions of actually daring to have an authentic relationship. And how he tries to navigate and weave through that was always interesting to me. And one of my favorite songs all time in that is the Library, Madam Librarian song. It's just too fun. So yeah, that would be Harold Hill.
All right. So Kathleen, what's your favorite musical character?
Jean Valjean.
Oh,
The arc that he goes through, from what, and the men that have to play that role, what they have to go through, and plus having it being sung the entire time. it's just amazing to see how well that character is written, and plus how they brought that novel to the stage and made you love that character so much. I mean, at the end when he's dying, I just lose it every time. I mean, just so to know where he came from to where he was. And the stage version is to me a better choice than the movie. I'm grateful to have that, but I still think the stage version is a lot better version of it.
Why Russell Crowe? Why? Like, you totally ruined that movie with Russell Crowe. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, Hugh Jackman is not the best singer of all time, but I am willing to forgive that man. But the tone of Russell Crowe's voice does not work for him at all.
Yeah, not Russell Crowe. Hugh Jackman's performance was breathtaking to me. It just ripped my heart out, and I thought it was amazing. But Russell Crowe, I seriously thought so many times, like, to me, Russell Crowe was to Les Mis what Jar Jar Binks was to Star Wars. If we can figure out a way to take every scene with him in it and edit him out, it would make it such a better show. Seriously.
Chris.
Misa Jean.
I want somebody to overdub one of our favorites over Russell Crowe for the entire movie, and I bet you I would love it so much more. In the interest of time, we're gonna jump around a little bit. Some of it being, I'm figuring we just kind of open it up and we don't have to take one answer at a time. But what do you think the best qualities of a musical share? Like, or what do the best musicals share as far as the qualities? So, me personally, I love when you have a really good story arc is always a great thing, but it's always the songs, right? Like, I don't know, like, anyone else? I mean, please chime in.
It has to be, and sorry, I'll disagree with you. The storyline has to make it work, and that there's been a lot of literature written about that. You can have these beautiful songs, but if the storyline doesn't really make it move along, you can pull those songs out, maybe write a different one, which like the Gershwins have done several different times, because there's way back in the day, their storylines were, most of them, pretty pitiful. But you have to have that strong storyline to keep the glue together to make all those songs make sense. That's
no interesting.
I'm an educator. That's what I'm going to say.
I once it was a bad movie, Terminator Salvation, but Christian Bale said he didn't want to do the movie until the script was so good that they could perform it on a stage and it be believable. And so I thought that was kind of interesting. And now you're saying, and then granted, the movie's really bad, so it's bad for comparison on that front. But I mean, like, as far as
they should have done it on a stage.
We travel back in time to to terminate that. So, but yeah. Anyone else comments on that?
Man, I tell you, the thing that I absolutely love, and I think it's part of the power of theater, is to transport people into a completely different place, but then have a storyline that actually tells the most mundane, simple, everyday story that connects with every person. You know, it's almost like it's a sucker punch. Like you're disarmed by, the pageantry or the music or how, beautiful everything is or the bigness of everything. And then you realize that it's actually telling a story that you experience on a very human level. Those are the ones where I'm like, oh, wait, this isn't about, this isn't about some animal, or this isn't about this farcical thing. This actually is something that I deal with. And I think that's what takes it from just being a really cool theatrical production to actually being something that people want to hear over and over again, and you can't shake it because it just sticks to your bones.
Well said. Very well said.
All right, on to our next one. Chris alluded to it earlier. Who's your favorite stage actor working currently? Anyone?
So I said Christopher Jackson. So definitely Christopher Jackson, but I'm not going to be able to get through a musical podcast without talking about Sutton Foster, because anytime I see her on stage, like she's just absolutely amazing. And she reminds me of videos that you would see of Broadway in the past, and like just her presence seems that she's got an old Broadway soul
Timeless.
that, and it's timeless. And just like when I think about the Tony performance of Anything Goes, and like just she fits in now, but she could have been plugged in decades ago. And I just think she's absolutely amazing.
Drowsy Chaperone, by the way, that's so
yeah.
much fun as a musical. So silly. So much fun, though. Kathleen, John?
Ben Platt.
Okay.
For right now, I saw him twice do Dear Evan Hansen on Broadway, and the arc that he went through, to watch that young man go through that story and that character. I can't wait to see the movie, although I know where they cast him. I know he's too old for the part, but I think they made him look younger. I hope they haven't ruined it, but to see that performance live on stage, I've not seen anything like that in my life. It tears your heart out. So
that was another surprise one for me, and yeah, I'm very excited to watch it on the big screen, but I was kind of sad that I haven't seen it on stage yet. So, John, do you have anybody currently?
So Christopher Jackson, I definitely share with Chris just the man crush there, in large part because his vocal range, all of his songs actually fit very nicely with my voice, so I can sing them and belt them, and it makes me feel really good. But in that vein, I actually have just really loved, just fallen in love with Anthony Ramos and his voice, and he kind of took me by surprise. I wasn't expecting. What I loved about Hamilton again was this cool aspect of these main characters playing two different roles, and who he was as John Lawrence, and then switching to Philip in the second act, was just seeing him play this kid. And then play this brash, point me in the direction, I'm gonna take him down, and all of a sudden transform, and then also see him in 21 Jump Street and the way he portrayed that. I've just been hunting down lots of his, he does solo work. Yes, I mean, okay. Yes.
Okay.
But I just really enjoyed listening to him. There's actually an actress, and she's not. She does not get. I mean, she doesn't get a lot of notoriety yet, at least on a national sense. She was in. Her name is Rebecca Webb. She performed in a tour of Thoroughly Modern Millie for a little while. Then she was in Motown on Broadway, and right now she's in the Hamilton cast in San Francisco. And I've got to see her develop as a performer. When I was in Nashville, she was going to Belmont University, and got to hear her sing when she was in college, and have been able to follow her along the way. And she's just I'm in love with her voice and the way that she embraces each character that she's in. Whether, again, Thoroughly Modern Millie, Motown, she was in Little Shop, all these different roles, and each one she blows it out of the water.
So my current man crush, but has been this way for a long time, is Matthew Morrison. To know all the things that he's performed on stage, and then for Glee, the
Light
first
in the Piazza. He was in Light in the Piazza.
Okay, the first couple of seasons of Glee literally felt like they just followed us in Central Sound for a while and went, how can we dramatize this a little bit more?
Seriously.
So it was a little bit weird watching that show for a while. So Matthew Morrison is definitely my thing. Since we are getting close to the wrap-up time, I'm going to say these sentences, but I'm going to leave the end off of it, and I want each of you to finish it. If you could remake one musical, ... Anyone?
I'd like to see Singin' in the Rain with John Hamm, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and Mandy Moore.
Interesting. I like that.
Modernize it.
Okay.
I don't want to erase the original, but
I kind of want to see an actual version of Grease, not the movie version of Grease. Like I want to see an actual the adaptation of the actual stage musical. That would be my remake. Would be like give me one that has Blue Moon in it, or not Blue Moon, Moonin. Sorry. Speaking of Chris Meek, and but yeah, Moonin over you. But yeah, like I want to see an actual version of Grease that is not made for TV and pop stars. So, yep, that'd be mine.
We can go and sing along, sit next to each other, Jason.
Yes, I'll get up in front of the movie again. And,
Yep.
Oh.
Carousel. I'm going to say Carousel. I love the songs in it, but the storyline, oh my gosh, it just needs to be redone completely. Take the songs and kind of retell the story, especially today's. That's hard. I think it'd be a great one to do, but not the way that it's written right now. So,
John?
I would kind of, one that I didn't know anything about until we did it at LC. And then I really started to like it, but I didn't like many renditions that I saw, was How to Succeed. I'd love to see a How to Succeed that doesn't include Matthew Broderick. I kind of think, to me,
Daniel Radcliffe.
Yeah. Well, yes, I need to visit that one. But
and the Karate Kid one.
Not the Karate Kid. But yeah, so that would be one.
All right. I never want to watch a musical with ...
I mean, I'm just Matthew Broderick. I don't like the dude. And I've always, every time I see him, that has been one of the things I've wondered as a kid. Why the hype? What is that? What this dude? He just never did.
Get rid of Ferris Bueller. I got it.
Well, I love Ferris Bueller. That's the thing. I was like, I love that movie, but I'm like, when I see him in musicals, just didn't get it.
I never want to watch a musical with Pierce Brosnan ever again. I watched Mamma Mia and I wanted to throw up so bad. That movie is horrible. Do not watch
Russell Crowe.
Find something.
Yeah, I was going to say it's Russell Crowe, right?
Never want to watch a musical with Pierce Brosnan. So,
John Travolta in Hairspray. After that, I mean, Grease. He was.
Oh yeah.
Once he was in Hairspray, no more. No. Nope.
All right. Who would you want to write the musical of your life?
Robert Brown. Robert Brown.
Oh,
please, Jason Robert Brown.
I wasn't ready for the Bridges of Madison County. Last 5 years rips your heart out and stomps on it backwards and frontwards. And I think the movie musical is actually a pretty darn good version of it.
Yes.
But Bridges of Madison County, I had no idea what the storyline was, but I love Jason Robert Brown. And so I was like, I'm going to listen to this. And then for the story to be what it is and how it transpires. And then dude, that movie.
I went out to Iowa to see the first stage version of it, and he conducted the orchestra. It was amazing.
Awesome. It
was amazing.
For me, it's got to be Paul and Pasek. Is that how you say it?
Pasek and Paul.
Pasek and Paul, the guys who did Dear Evan Hansen, the guys who did Greatest Showman. Greatest Showman is something that I was never I never had any doubt for some strange reason. The moment they said Hugh Jackman playing Barnum, I was in, and then Shane saw it before me due to the birth of my last child. And he was like, Jason, it's great. And I was like, I know it's great. And then I went and watched it, and I'm not kidding you. I don't care how many times I've seen it. The entire sequence at the beginning with A Million Dreams, when he's dancing with his wife up there on the rooftop, I literally had tears coming down my face and I had the biggest smile. And I was just sitting there like, I'm getting chills talking about it right now. It's absolutely those two, especially after that, and then Dear Evan Hansen. Yes, go ahead. I want you to write the story of my life. So, all right, either one of you.
I would say, in the spirit of consistency, I would say Lin-Manuel Miranda. I think I've had an idea. Actually, had an idea for a story that kind of not directly told the story of my life word for word, but was kind of a way for me to process some of my story. And I think when I've heard just the stuff that Lin-Manuel Miranda does, it sounded like what I would want some of that to sound like in terms of the storytelling and incorporating the hip hop elements, but also not just being necessarily handcuffed by that. So yeah.
All right. So Kathleen, I know you have to leave. If you want to stick around, I have one more question, and it's just because I love this question. If you want to stick around for it, it's cool. If not, we greatly appreciate having you around. My last question is going to be, what character do you want to play? Either you've already played it and there's no topping that, or do you want to play because you've never had the chance to? What is your character? I'm going to go ahead and start it off to give you guys a couple of moments to think about it, because I already knew that this was coming. Obviously, you didn't. Mine is Charles Schroman and the slash to the Captain James Hook of Finding Neverland. If he's the producer of the show when Barry's trying to create Peter Pan, and he plays the double, and he doubles over to be the baddie of Captain James Hook in the show. And it was played by Kelsey Grammer originally in the original stage production on Broadway. And I absolutely love and would relish to play that character, because I just think it's just it sounds fun. But then on top of that, just to know the music, and that movie is one of my all-time top 10, probably easy, because I love the movie so much that I bought John a copy because he hadn't seen it yet. I don't know if he's actually watched it or not. We keep forgetting to talk
Yes.
about it.
Yes.
But yeah, so that's definitely mine. With a small second place, not even a small second place. Second place easily goes to Nicely Johnson, just because that's been the role. I did Guys and Dolls in middle school for 8th grade, and then 9th grade, our musical. And then we just did like a bunch of songs from it. It was a review. And then my freshman year at high school was Guys and Dolls. And Nicely is definitely the part that I always have wanted to play. But second now to Captain Hook and Froman. So anybody?
Well,
I
I
can't
kind of
sing
already
it.
said
Oh.
mine, which is go ahead.
Sorry.
Chris.
No,
Go
I was
ahead,
gonna say I can't sing it, but my pick is Father from Children of Eden. Maybe with some vocal training I could, but I used to want to play a lot of different roles, and now it's Father. Listening to that show more recently, the part is amazing, playing God, but obviously you get that opportunity, but just his relationship with Adam, his relationship with all of his children throughout the show, and being that constant there, even when seeing the show, even when he's not singing, his presence is always there, and his influence is always there over the things that are happening. And
Kathleen's production of that was awesome.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely amazing.
Love that
John
musical.
Phillips.
I
John
love
Phillips
Stephen
was
Schwartz.
Absolutely
Mhm.
amazing as Father.
So I would say George Washington from Hamilton. I have played it in my mind what it would be like for a final performance to do that song with my son, and I have yet to get through it without crying. I can't listen to Teach Them How to Say Goodbye, without thinking about that. So there, with my schedule being what it is, it's really hard for me. It's been really hard for me for a while to be able to commit to doing a musical, but that is one that I would create the space for, if that opportunity came.
Maybe
Kathleen.
I'll direct it someday, but if it's like Phantom, you still can't do it, and it's been on Broadway for over, going on.
I know,
30
right?
years. So I don't know when that's going to be released for people to do at all. So but you would be perfect. You would really be great. Let me just say that I am proud of all of you young men, what you have done with your lives. I'm just saying, because I knew you all in high school, and I just want to say before I leave how much I appreciate this opportunity. Thank you for including me.
Absolutely.
Don't be strangers, because I'd love to see you on stage sometime. The next musical I'm directing is the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee, with auditions coming at the end of September. So if any of you would be interested in trying out for that, I can work around people's schedules. So anyway, all right. Thank you all. I'm going to head out. Bless you all. Take care. Continue success.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Kathleen.
All right. Gentlemen, is there anything else that you would like to say or comment on about our Jason Talks musicals episode?
Just thanks. I'm just appreciative for being invited to the conversation. Love having these kind of talks, especially with such great people who I respect your all's perspectives and also just have history with. So it's been a lot of fun doing this, and thank you, Jason, for putting together, and Shane for letting Jason delve into the musical theater realm for an episode.
Awesome.
I'm just glad that John got the How to Succeed talk in there, because I didn't think we were going to be able to get through a musical episode without talking about the show that the three of us were miraculous in together.
So I will say what's kind of funny is I think it might have been July 4th. We did Church in the Park, and we were hanging out afterwards, and John and I are standing next to Jolynn. And we're all just having a conversation or whatever. And then John's brother comes up and he goes, "Are you guys going to break out and do another version of How to Succeed? Are we having a reunion concert right now?" And it was just kind of messing with us about that. So I will say that I only did one community theater show after high school. And that's been something that I feel is a misstep for me. I should have done more. Because of how much I enjoyed it. So with my new job and the fact that it is a 9-to-5 thing, it is something that I am hoping at some point in the future I can start making the room to make that happen as a possibility. And obviously,
we had to dust it off to get you to that King George joint a couple of years back, man.
Oh no,
Killed
you
it.
Brought up King George. We might have to we might have to put that in. We might have to put a couple of seconds of that clip into this episode just here at the end for fun.
Man.
You'll be back, time will tell. You'll remember that I served you well. Oceans rise, empires fall. We have seen each other through it all. And when push comes to shove, we'll send a fully armed battalion to revive Saying our love is draining and you can't go on.
But yeah, and as much as you guys are great friends of mine, I think it would be even more fun. And I don't know if it's just wishing and hoping, but I can always wish and hope so that we could find something that we could do on stage together again at some point.
That'd be super fun.
Absolutely.
All righty, gentlemen. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Shane, for producing, and I am happy to give the reins back to him for next week. But this week was my week, so Gentlemen, thank you so much. It was a pleasure. And yeah, we'll talk soon.
Thank you. Peace.
Good night.